for better. What I was also angry about is that in the book about the KGB deal, they gave a false rendering of the hacker's ethics. I'm not saying that the hacker's ethics is an iron law. Hackers break rules all the time, even their own. But what Pengo did is an extreme example of ignoring them altogether.
And Pengo, what do you think about what's just been said?
No rule or law can be an absolute truth. For me, hacking foreign computers was caused and guided by fun and fascination. When I hacked, I asked myself no questions about the hacker ethics. Hackerdom was nothing but discovering the details of this new technology and doing everything possible with it. When breaking into a mainframe, not a single member of the CCC thought about the golden rules of the hacker ethics at all.
Well, then why did you sell the information to the KGB?
Val is wrong in saying I sold information I stole from the hacker scene. We contacted the KGB ourselves. We were only interested in economic profits. We thought that an intelligence service would be interested in hacker knowledge.
So, would you admit that you broke hacker ethics? Or was it just a fascinating story once an intelligence service got involved?
Intelligence services have always been interested in computer knowledge, and we thought of ourselves as the most ingenious hackers in the world, so we didn't bother too much the question for which people we were working in the end.
And this fascination, did it continue after the KGB's involvement?
First, we penetrated computers and didn't see the social consequences of our actions. Fascination with technology led more or less to fascination with power. Breaking into computers was a more or less irreal pleasure. Making contact with this KGB agent suddenly was real life, very real indeed. Suddenly I became the star in an espionage movie. Hacking was just playing with a toy. Contacting the KGB agent was a real social interaction. Everything was a thrill.
So with the benefit of hindsight, it was like being in a movie. I mean, do you regret that? You had something of a starring role in this film. Is that something you're sorry about?
No, I'm not sorry, and I can't change the past. It was my decision to do the things
you passed a threshold you shouldn't have passed. You were playing a game that you were way too young to play. And now you are part of a game that Secret Services play. You are their prisoner now.
Would you do it again?
I think what I did was logical for me to do at that time.
Val, do you agree that there are no absolute rules?
I do think there are absolute rules. There are absolute laws. And I know society would work better the more people work for society and not for themselves. And that means that in a social context, there are absolute laws, just like there are the laws of gravity in the material world. On the other hand, society can't work if there are unnatural rules, such as strictly moral rules. But let me say something to Pengo. He said that it was all like playing a game, and that's true, but it is a game where you don't make the rules. You follow the rules of other people and institutions, and if you don't overcome your fear, you will remain the victim in this game, or at least a chess figure on someone else's chessboard. And these secret services, they're good at playing these games because they've been doing it for such a long time. It's their job to play these games, and they will not stop doing so. So if you don't stick to your own ethical standards, you will remain their plaything.
And Pengo, do you think that you came to accept hacker ethics in the end?
You're asking too much whether I followed the rules or not. All I can say is that I didn't have them in mind. So I just did what I wanted to do.
Let's take the first rule of hacker ethics.
You can do whatever. Everybody has their own liberty. But you have to be aware of the consequences. You should have thought twice about it. Going for a deal with intelligence agencies, you broke personal trust. The people in the hacker community, they gave information and knowledge to you. Whereas the people in the secret services, they never give any information to outside people.
Well, let's talk about information and the first rule of hacker ethics, that all information should be free.
Yeah, it's an old question. Who profits? Every time I deal with information, I have responsibilities. I can kill people with false information. And we have thought about this in the Chaos Computer Club, this idea of responsibility. I can perhaps break into the control computer of an atomic power plant and provoke a catastrophe.
Yeah, but isn't that somewhat fascinating?
Fascination alone is dangerous because you might not see the existing limitations. I do not believe in social control, but individuals must be responsible for what they are doing. Yeah? The Chaos Computer Club is not just a bunch of techno freaks. We have been thinking about the consequences, the social consequences of technology from the very beginning. And I think that our strength derives in part from our social responsibility, from our morals. And we accept fascination, but being fascinated means being chained. Whoever is fascinated is enslaved, and there lies the limit. Everybody must face the question, what am I doing?
And Pengo, what are you doing now?
I try to make a living out of my abilities and to do more positive things than to work for the KGB.
And do ethical questions such as these arise in your present work?
Ethics remain a problematic question. Technology should not be separated from the people in it. When I started with computers, I was 16 years old and had no idea about that. For all I knew, the CCC was a group of techno freaks, and so it is no wonder that we young people try to go ahead with purely technical things.
So Val, do you think perhaps that these moral standards that you're talking about are maybe a benchmark too high just for ordinary hackers?
Well, we Germans, we have already such a bad reputation that one couldn't be careful enough, honestly. But if you really start doing bad things, then my suggestion is we all live in one world, and we as hackers must face social responsibility too.
And so can you articulate these rules of ethical behavior and discuss their consequences?
This question is difficult to answer.
Involvement with secret services always has bad consequences and must be avoided. I think the Chaos Computer Club is a public service rather than a secret service. And this is what the affair tells us. Giving information to the public is good. Giving information to secret services is bad. And I think technology today has shown us that secret services are redundant. And I think secret services have enormous difficulties handling information, and normally they even keep information secret to themselves.
So what is the difference between a secret service and a multinational corporation? You have just said that selling information to a secret service is bad, and selling information to a multinational, is that something that is acceptable?
No. Most multinationals are larger and worse than the governments today. We are against deals with both of them because we don't want to enhance their information advantage. Information should remain cheap. It is not good if the level of your information depends on the size of your bank account. Business with information is only good if it is in the public interest.
Okay. So let's take an example. Hackers break into the computer systems of Shell in South Africa, and they could destroy it. What should they do?
I'm against destruction of any kind. I think problems should be solved with moderate means.
I can't imagine that if someone has a possibility to do it, that he would use this ability. It's difficult to make a distinction between a company and a government.
But you should sell information to any of them.
So are you saying that you should take that information regarding Shell and give it to the ANC, for example?
It's a very personal matter. If you believe that the South African government is evil, then yes, you should give that information to the ANC. But it's a personal belief. I have never believed that you can control computer technology, and that is what fascinates me about computer technology.
And yet you believe that the problem with secret services is now behind us?
Yes, I think that within 10 to 20 years, secret information will no longer exist. So but I still don't believe that you can do whatever you want with information. For example, to sell it.
So you're saying, in conclusion, that if you can't control technology, we need to control ourselves.
People try to put us down just because we hang around. Things they do seem awful cold. I hope I die before I get old. Why don't you all fade away? Don't try to dig what we all say. I'm not trying to cause a big sensation. Just talking about my generation. I'm talking about my generation. Just talking about my generation.